It's 9 a.m. on a Sunday. That means it's time for Lisa's Changing Perceptions right here on 21.6 The Net, brought to you by Bremer Team, the Bremer Team, Keller Williams, North Shore West, bremerteam.com, 847-456-6334. Lisa, good morning. How you doing?
I am well, Pete. How are you?
I am awesome.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I'm a self-empowerment coach and hypnotherapist and a practitioner of NLP. You can reach me at 262-573-7055 by text or phone. You can also email me at lisaschangingperceptions@gmail.com. lisaschangingperceptions.com is the website. You can also find me on Facebook. And of course, you can always reach me through 216thenet.com and send a message, and Pete will make sure that I get that message. You're also welcome to message in any questions that you have that you would like addressed on the air. I will keep it name free if that's the choice. You just have to note anonymous on it. And I'll be happy to not bring up the name on it. So don't be shy. Go ahead and ask a question. Today is going to kind of be a free for all. I have Mary here with me today too. She's not wanting to be on camera, which is fine, but she can enter in because this is going to be kind of a free-for-all. I know last week we did victim or victor or both, and that seemed to have a lot of feedback and questions. So I'm welcoming all those questions today. You can ask me questions today about the metaphysical, biofeedback, NLP, hypnotherapy, general questions for different options that might be available, different situations or issues and why they might come up. You'd really be surprised some of the conversations that I get in with people, just random people even sometimes, and the things, and that people not realizing that there's a lot of options available and why things are coming up the way they're coming. So I welcome anybody you can even click in. Pete, I'm assuming the link is in there today, or no?
It is.
Now it is. I saw the little magic buttons.
No, I had muted myself, so I wasn't expecting a question. So there you go. But it is up there.
If you choose to link in, you can come in and be in live on the air with me up on the screen. Scott, I sent you a message this morning trying to get you to, because you always have a lot of questions.
And Denise Maple says good morning as well. I'm just going to leave my mic on.
Good morning, Denise. You're welcome to link in if you choose to and chit chat on the air and ask questions. We're just doing kind of a free for all day. And before I start with what I was going to start with, Mary, since you're here, even though you're not on the screen and you're here, do you have any questions or topics you would like to start with today? Or did I lecture you enough pre-show that you choose not to speak to me now?
Pretty much.
You can talk away. You're fine. Or not. Dead air doesn't work.
Is there anything he needs to tell me? I know they can't see him.
I can't do a dog reading on the air. There's a connection to that. I can't. Then I'll have to space out for the rest of the show.
Oh, okay.
Which is, she's wanting me to talk to her dog that happens to be here, for those of you that didn't know. And I'm not going to do a dog reading on the air, but I can do it at some point. So I'm going to start. Pete, if any questions come up, go ahead.
I will let you know.
Today, I'm going to start with discussing intuition with people. I have this conversation with my friend. I have my friend in North Carolina who's also a medium. And we talk every morning on my way to work. And we've been having this conversation lately, and it's been coming up in our lives a lot more of recent. So we're kind of assuming it's coming up in everybody else's lives too. But sometimes people don't recognize it. They don't understand what it is. And it's following your guidance and intuition. There's a misconception that you have to be a medium or do what we do in order to get that guidance and get guided to different places and different things. And that's not my belief. It's that people don't necessarily understand what that guidance is, what that guidance means. It's that gut instinct or that urge. People, sometimes it's bigger than that. And yes, we're able to see it and read it, but everybody gets it. It's that gut instinct and that urge that tells you to do something or that guides you to go somewhere. When you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you get this desire to turn into a store you hadn't thought about going to, or make a stop at a gas station that you don't normally stop at, or, whatever it should be, but it's that urge that all of a sudden pushes it. And oftentimes people just push that away. Like, well, that's ridiculous. I don't know why I would do that. But it's usually a guidance. There's a reason for it. There may be an experience for it. And by pushing it down, we're missing that experience. We're missing that opportunity that's being placed to us. And it's funny because the people who are the most, I don't want to say argumentative, but that's really the word I have for it, I guess, about saying, oh, that's not true, that's not right, it's just a dumb thought that I have, are also the people who complain the most that they don't get the guidance that other people get. And it's like, but you might be getting it and you're dismissing it. And my most recent example, I was telling Pete and Mary before the show, is on Thursday, I was driving home and I had this urge because, I've mentioned it there's a biker bar that I go to when I need to clear my head and just kind of be. And it's people I've known for most of my life. And so I was like, I'm going to go there and just kind of chill out on the deck today because the weather was decent. And then I was most of the way home and I was like, oh, you know what? I don't want to. I'm not going to do that. But the urge had been really strong to go, kind of a push to go. It came out of the blue. And so I went home and I wasn't there but a few minutes and the total urge of go there now came over me. So I thought, okay, I don't know what this is, but the urge is back. So I'm going to go. And I went and I just sat down and kind of observed around and paid attention. And an older gentleman came over and sat down next to me. And then he said, there's not enough room over here. They got stuff on the counter, and kind of walked away. And I just kind of laughed. And a few minutes later, he came back and he said, do you mind if I sit here? And I was like, no, that's fine. And they had cleared the counter off. So I guess he wanted to order dinner and he wanted room for that. And he just started chit-chatting and I started chit-chatting with him. And in the conversation out of the blue, I don't even remember what brought it up. He brought up that his wife had just passed away in October. And 2 weeks later, his son passed away. Both were unexpected. And I told him I was so sorry to hear that. And that I understood that I was a widow and that I also have a son up there with him. And we kind of got into this conversation and he started just kind of like releasing and venting out all of these things and telling me his whole life story and how he felt about it. And I mean, I am one of those people, like even strangers who don't know what I do or whatever tend to just kind of tell me everything about themselves. But he was kind of venting it out. And I was realizing that was why I was kind of pushed to go there, because face it, sitting around, not that your buddies or your buddies that you hang out with aren't going to be understanding or compassionate, but in general, that's not the kinds of conversations that they're going to be comfortable having with you, where you can kind of vent it out and get a little teary and, all those things that happen. And so before I left, he stopped and he said, thank you. It was nice to talk to you. And he was very, very flattering about it. And then he said, I'd like to talk to you again. It's nice to get this out. And I said, of course. And then I kind of told him what I did, which was funny. But, and he just said, how would I get a hold of you if I wanted to talk again? And he said, I'll probably talk your ear off. I'll buy you dinner or whatever, but it's just nice to have somebody to talk to. And I said, of course, and had this conversation. And then I went home realizing that was why I had the urge to go. That was my intuition. That was the guidance saying, hey, there's somebody there that needs you, and go. And I think that we miss those opportunities. People think that your guidance and your intuition is only about the big things, like, oh my God, go buy a lottery ticket, or, like something huge that's going to happen in our life. And so they don't understand that every little thing that you're guided for is something huge. And it might not be something huge in your life in that moment, but I can tell you, based on his response and how much better he felt having somebody who understood what he was feeling, that was huge in his life in that moment. And I think that we miss a lot of those opportunities by just saying, oh, well, I don't know. No, I'm not going to do that. That's silly. Versus just kind of allowing it sometimes to flow and allowing it to happen. And just trust that little voice in your gut that tells you, hey, you know what? You want to go do this. And like I said, sometimes it's as silly as, you're driving down the road and you decide you really get, whatever reason, a desire to go to the gas station that you don't normally go to. Or, you're heading home and all of a sudden you really get this huge urge to go stop at a store you hadn't planned on stopping in. There's opportunities all over the place for us to find intuition and guidance. And, that was a really big deal for him in the moment. And truthfully, it was a big deal for me because I felt very needed and I felt like I really did something positive. So I did get something out of that. But we're in this cycle of society where everything has to be huge and monetary or thing orientated, if it's not going to make me, it would be like me saying, why would I go on the radio if I'm not by next week going to be Tony Robbins? What's the point?
Well, I mean, here we are almost a year later, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I had a desire at we've talked about how I came back on the air. One day I was sitting at the dam and I was in a very dark and sad place. And I started thinking about when I was on the radio show, how much I loved it when I used to do it. And so I was flipping through Facebook and up came Pete's page. And I went, oh, that's interesting. Look at that. It's right in McHenry. And so I sent him a message and he happened to see the message fairly quickly. And then we kind of went into a conversation, which brought me here. And we hit it off immediately. It was going to be a 15-minute kind of visit to check out and find out what I wanted to do. Ended up into like a 2-hour conversation. And then I started going to the breakfast and it just kind of rolled into what it was. Yeah. And I was even in a very dark and sad place, but for whatever reason, something from my past years before kind of started to bubble up in me. And I started to think about it. And I thought about how much pleasure it brought me. When I had done internet radio before, I had stopped when my husband became sick, because between working full time and my husband being sick and having 2 teenagers at home. And when I was working, I was we opened up the animal emergency from scratch. So I was 50, 60 hours a week working, and on my days off and time off running to chemo and, doing all these different things and trying to sleep in between and make sure the girls were taken care of. So I just kind of quit when I don't have time for this. And I legitimately didn't. And for some reason in that dark, sad place, something in me started to bubble about, wow, I really did like that. I really loved doing that. I wonder what it would take to do it again. I knew I didn't want to go back to the platform that I had been on. It's kind of gotten, I don't know. It's not my vibe anymore.
Well, I would say that you did not come across at all in a dark place, like you were sad or unhappy.
That was the day I found you.
So, I see. All right. I was going to say, during our conversation, that's not what I got from you at all.
No, and that's the blessing, because the day I found you on Facebook and sent you the instant message or the private message, whatever, that was the day I was at the dam. I was in tears. I was thinking life had no purpose. I was very sad.
Wow.
And very dark. And then all of a sudden that little voice started going, remember when you did radio? Remember how much you loved it? Remember how when you were there, you loved it? And then I went, well, I wonder if there's a different platform, because I'm not technology savvy. And I don't enjoy. Could I learn it? Of course. Yeah. Do I want to? No.
Oh, hey, Shayna, how you doing? Shayna says,
Shayna.
Good morning. So, and again, to reiterate for everybody, this is a free for all session of Lisa's Changing Perception. I should say episode, not session, right? Ever give everybody the wrong impression. But there are links here if you're on Facebook or YouTube. If you'd like to copy and paste that link in, follow the instructions, turn your camera on and your mic on, you're more than welcome to join Lisa on the show today. And of course, if you're a little camera shy or mic shy, go ahead and shoot your questions here. Shayna says, do you have days where you don't want your gift? Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh, Lordy B. Absolutely. I think my mother has more days where she wishes I didn't have my gift. Yes, there are. As a matter of fact, I teach mediumship because I believe everybody has this gift. It's a choice. But one of the first things I do when I start, it's a 4-week class that I do. And when I start that is explain to people there is balance in the universe. So for every wonderful, miraculous, cool thing you're going to see, there's also lessons and things that you do that are difficult, and there's balance in the universe. If you want to truly get into the deep part of it. But yes, there are days that I have begged for it to go away. Yes. There are days I've screamed, take it back. There are more days when I say, thank you. I see the blessing in this. Thank you. I'm glad I was able to help that person. But there are days when I shut down. I've admitted it on the air. I am one who has walked through my house, flipping the bird to spirit, saying, shove this. I'm not doing it anymore. But there are more days that I see the blessing and the grace that's allowed to be channeled through me. That's how I look at it. I don't do anything besides accept the fact that I am open to be a channel. So I am grateful for the opportunity for Spirit to pass grace through me to another person, because when Spirit passes grace through me to another person, I receive grace. So
that's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm a Reiki master, and it's funny because I've talked to people, not everybody, but generalizing, and they're like, oh my God, when I did Reiki, I did this. And to me, it's like, for Reiki is an energy. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's a healing modality. It's a healing energy. And to me, by becoming Reiki attuned, and I'm a master Reiki, which is the third attunement for those of you who don't know that, but I just look at it as it's almost like a conduit got put through me, and the energy, the lightning energy, gets to hit me, and then I get to send it out through me to another person that may not have been able to receive it. But I'm not doing anything besides saying I am willing to be open as a channel of this energy for you to grace a human.
And with that, Shayna does say the visual of you flipping the bird to the spirit is just cracking her up. But with that too, what exactly is Reiki? I've heard people talk about it for many years. I've never, ever gotten into it. What is that exactly?
It's a healing modality. It's an energy transferring. Now that I said that, every person who's totally into Reiki is going to shun me for life. For those of you who don't know this, I am not much of a rule follower. And I like to discover things for myself and do things for myself and learn. So I have never done read a Reiki book. I've never taken a Reiki class. I have a friend who's a Reiki master teacher who knows me well, knows how I do things, and she has attuned me to each level as I was ready to attune to each level. But it's basically a healing modality and a healing energy to where you can transmit. There's different symbols that you use when you transmit the energy, and they mean different things. It's a choice in healing.
Okay.
Is it better than any other? Well, if you're into it, you're going to say yes. But to me, it's another option, kind of like religion, spirituality, you know what I mean? Like all these different things. It's a healing modality and a healing option available out there for those who it resonates with. But it involves symbols and history, and you're transmuting energy through your hands into somebody's body. When I do it, I do it a little bit different. That's where the Reiki people are going to shun me now. I started learning it, and then I asked Spirit, I said, this is not resonating for me. Please show me another way to use this energy. Please show me another way to do this. And they showed me colors. So I tend, when I do it, to send colors and to put it through the colors. Now, does that mean I'm not doing the same thing? To somebody totally into it and follows every rule of the book? Probably. To me, no, because I didn't decide it. I asked Spirit, show me another way, because this isn't resonating for me. But I wanted to be an open portal of energy. And Denise
Maple says that's how I got into Reiki too, Lisa. There.
Yeah, I chose. It's funny because in the beginning, I'll just tell you, in the beginning, there was, I suppose, a little bit of arrogance about it. And I struggle when I hear people say things like I did. Sometimes it's just the normal way we speak. And sometimes I think there are people that truly believe that they are doing something. For me, that's not what it is. I know that when I choose to open up and I ask for the energies of healing to come through, to offer to another person, I'm not doing anything besides being a conduit in that moment and allowing that energy to flow through me to offer it to someone else. But in truth, I'm receiving that energy to do that. In order to have something flow through you, it goes through you. And so you're absorbing that and you are sending it back out, but you're still receiving that same grace, that same blessing, that same healing, that same energy. So even when I have a person that I run into, whether they came in on purpose for a reading or whether I ran into them on the streets or was sitting next to them and just a reading spontaneously happened, I am not doing that. Spirit is saying she's open as a portal and this person needs to hear this. I'm going to use her as my voice box. I'm going to use her to help this person heal. I do tend, for whatever reason, to get clients that find me that need healing or are stuck on their life path, or, it's usually a big deal. Like they're really kind of locked in the quicksand on their path and they're looking for that thing to help push them out. And that just tends to be whatever it is. That doesn't mean everybody should be, but for me, that's what it tends to be. And that's why when I talked about my old radio show, I used to do a lot of readings on the air, and Pete's asked me if I'll do readings on the air here, and I'll try. I have my own mental block about it still, because to me, it's such a big deal and it's such a grace offering, and I have great respect for it. And when people would call up and ask me silly, ridiculous questions, like it was an amusement game, I became very offended. And so I would get very frustrated. I was actually known as the mean psychic.
Really?
Yeah, because I call people
psychic?
Bullshit. Yeah.
What would qualify as a silly or goofy question?
I'd have a lineup of 10, 15 people waiting on hold to ask me a question, and somebody'd call up and say, "What color dress should I wear to my interview?" I don't give a shit. What color dress do you like? One of these other people might be in grief, or you know what I mean, or might be really life struggling. Go ahead.
We do have a question.
Okay.
This is interesting. This is Rusty Moore. This is actually one of my cousins.
Hi, Rusty.
Who says, "Who do you ask for this energy or grace? I've never heard of this before."
I use the word spirit. Some people say God. It's whomever you resonate with. I use the word spirit, and I open up a channeled energy for it. But I'll be honest, when I do a reading or when I'm opening up on purpose, asking for my own assistance or guidance or clearing or what have you. And there's people that I know that are in very struggling situations who are not able to ask for themselves. And sometimes I'll go in and ask for healing for them, and I'll do it spiritually. But I call in, my prayer is, Mother God, Father God, archangels, ascended masters, saints, angels, spirit guides, loved ones that are here to love and protect me, and all elementals are welcome. And people say, why do you call in all those people? I'm like, because I don't know who's got the best stuff. And I don't know for sure what everybody's job is up there and who's going to be the best person for it. So I call them all in and I share what's in my heart that needs.
So it's sort of like putting a post on psychic social media, because you're like,
right. I'm throwing it out there to spirit. So, everybody's welcome who's of good. I do always say who's here to love and protect me, because I don't want something, with an attitude problem.
Well, actually, and with the attitude problem, Shayna says, how do you handle the darker reveals during readings?
First off, I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. I have only had one situation in all these years that was a true dark energy that came. It did choke me. Like it physically was choking me. But in that moment, I was in a very dark and depressed place. So my energy was very dark and low. And it was a very good lesson learned thing. So I don't open my energy. It's one of the reasons I call in absolutely everybody, because I do always ask to be protected from low vibrational and negative energies. So I don't have those experiences. Now, what somebody might think of as dark, I don't always see as dark, because in my life experience and the people who are drawn to me, I happen to be the person that's able to tell somebody something they don't want to hear when I know that it's for their best that they hear it.
I think there's a difference between dark and a difference between...
Unless you're the person hearing it.
Well...
It depends. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes people will look at something as, that was dark, that was mean, that was this, when in truth, it was just really uncomfortable to hear. Well, are there dark spirits? Yes.
Well, that's where I'm going. Because if it's dark, like dark spirit, dark energy, there are things that I have seen, and this might be a little bit too much about Pete on the air, but the things that I have seen that never have been, never will be, and have no concept of what it is to be a human or a human spirit.
Absolutely, because there's dark and light everywhere, and even within every human being.
And they live the way they live because it's all they know.
Right.
They have no concept of the fact that we view them as evil or bad or negative.
And there are many humans that way.
And there are many humans that are that way.
Yes. They don't understand that we view them that way, and they don't know another way to be. There are people
and
that
see, that's what I would call dark.
Right, but that's you because of your experience. Somebody else who hasn't had that experience or isn't familiar, hearing something that makes them incredibly uncomfortable or is very sad, they might look at as dark. So it kind of depends on what they're, but as far as the true dark energy, I've only had it once. And in truth, it was of my own allowance because I was in a place where I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't doing any self-care, and I was at such a low energy vibration at the time that I wasn't asking for protection guides. I wake up every morning and I do a prayer. I do a prayer every night before I go to bed. I call in all the peeps when I do it. I call in my energy, but it's because I'm not of knowledge as to who's the best for what thing up there. The only true control I have is that my intention behind what I'm trying to do and ask for is good. So I offer it kind of up to everybody and then say, whomever is the best to help and assist with this, please come forward and assist me. So I talk to everybody. Sometimes it's my husband. Once it was my son. Sometimes I have a guide that I didn't know who it was. And it's Kathumi. He's an ascended master. And I didn't know who it was. He kind of looks like Jesus. And I thought Jesus was here.
You're talking to Jesus.
Yeah. And it's funny because they came through and said something to me funny, but I saw their face in front of me. And I thought, oh my God, Jesus is here. Jesus came to see me. But it didn't feel right, like saying that. So I started researching and I found this ascended master. I went, oh my God, that's them. That's Jesus. And then I looked at it, no, that's not Jesus. And they're called Kathumi, and it's an ascended master, and they have a sense of humor. So I thought, oh, now I know why you came, because I was dealing with something. My daughter, she was young and she was really struggling. And I was asking for help to be shown how to help her. Like I didn't know what to do, because separating the mom in me who just wanted to protect her from the person in me that knew there was something that needed to transpire from this situation, I couldn't separate those two. So I went and asked for help. Sometimes we need to. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I have a heart that 95% of the time is pure with good intent. Anybody who says that their heart is 100% of the time pure with good intent is full of crap, because we all have negative things that come up. But 95% of the time, yeah, it's pure. And I trust that whomever comes. But it's my faith in that brings it. And I don't dismiss it. Like if I would have dismissed it, that pull to say go there when I kind of didn't want to go there, that person wouldn't have received the grace that they needed to receive. And in that, I received grace too, of feeling like I was worthwhile and needed in that moment. So it's not that I gave that to him. It's that spirit pulled me to where I needed to be. I chose to follow it. And then spirit brought that man grace through me. That's how I view it. And that's when I struggle with people who try to do or maybe they really are, holier than thou. I remember I was on a radio show once on the old platform, and there was a lot of people who were psychics, intuitives, and everything under the sun. They called themselves on there. I went into this show. I got kicked out and banned. They blocked me. Right. Because there was a person on there saying that she hates it when she does a reading and it comes through that person's going to die and she's not allowed to tell them. And so I put in the question, then why would you need to know? Why would they tell you if that person doesn't need to know? Who are you? And she said, oh, they just do. Sometimes they feel I need to know. And I said, okay, but I don't understand. Why do you need to know? Why is it your concern if you're not to share it? Because to me, if I'm going to open up for that energy, it's because it's to be shared with somebody.
Well, yeah. And at that point, who are you anyway to them or that spirit? And why do you need,
right. And there's an arrogance about that.
It's like Nunya.
And she was trying to put forth that she was like standing next to God is so valuable that she needed all this information that somebody else couldn't have. And I have issue with that, because to me, if they bring it to me, then it's meant to be shared. Otherwise, in truth, it's not my business.
Okay. Now, Shayna has a paragraph for you here.
Okay.
So strap in. Here we go.
Okay.
So you go more big picture and see what someone might view as less than enlightened behavior as serving a greater goal. That's actually a question. And then Shayna says, do I have that right? I'm thinking of someone who carries great guilt, specifically the addiction behaviors that cause such self-loathing, stuck energy.
I believe that there's balance in the universe. and that someone who is struggling because they haven't found their way to find peace. But in that situation, you can be offered blessings of grace and understanding and compassion. Because when somebody is in that situation and making choices, they're obviously in pain. Okay, so we have to understand that they're in pain. If that triggers an anger in us or a fear in us, that's the blessing of something coming up that we need to deal with, that we need to look at and focus. Because why would somebody else making a choice that's painful for themselves cause us anger? And it's because there's something in us that it's triggering, whether it be because we want them to care enough about us that they fix it, because we want to feel like we were worth it, because we want them in our lives and they're not. I mean, there's a million different, that's a cobwebbed effect. The only thing that we can offer someone always, regardless of if we know what they're going through or not, is grace. And we can pray for another person. We all pray a different way. I go into the spirit and I ask if there's any energy or any clearing that I can offer to them. Please allow me to offer it and show me how, or offer me opportunity. If there is not, please offer them grace and miracles to see what they need to see. Well, I'm going to cry now. This gets me all emotional.
I have tissues.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
So yes, and understand that guilt comes from a place of pain as well. Guilt comes from a very deep pain and a very deep regret and a very deep feeling of not good enough, or wasn't good enough, at least, even if it was only in a moment. So what can we offer that person? Grace and forgiveness. And there's some people that say, well, I don't want them to have forgiveness. They don't deserve forgiveness for what they did. I can understand that. That's an anger that still needs to be processed. But the only question I would ask anybody who said that to me is, I understand that, but have you ever done something that was unkind or that you regret? And would you have wished for forgiveness for that? Because until we are perfect, until we are a perfect specimen, we cannot judge. But we tend to, and that's part of the human condition. But to me, that's also part of the process of discovering who we are and what's kind of down in there that we need to bring up and look at. Okay. And I don't mean to sound holier than thou in any way, shape, or form.
No, and Shana says
very
thanks,
open to, yeah, so. I'm very open to say that my parts of my life are a big hot flipping mess. And all these things that I talk about and these tools that I teach and the sessions that I do, I actually do with myself, on myself. And I discover those things. And I have had to find forgiveness and grace for things that were very, very, very difficult. And here's the thing, and I want everybody to hear this. The most difficult person I had to find forgiveness and grace for was me. Mm. Our anger is a deflection of all of those things. It's a blame. It's a projecting out. And the most difficult process I ever have had to go through, and still am going through, but I've done a lot, is to find grace and forgiveness for myself. And it is not an easy task, but will be the greatest thing you've ever done in your life. If everybody wants to find your purpose, to me, that is part of our purpose here in life, is to, I was just talking to my instructor about this, and I've talked about this on the air. I've started to believe that the meaning of life is we come into the world as this innocent, pure baby, face it, newborn baby, squishy, lovey. You know, it just wants nurtured and loved and fed and cared for, and it's innocent and has no judgments and, you know, all these things. And then it's kind of like Spirit's joke that from birth, or sometimes in the womb or what have you, until 8 or 9, we're this sponge absorbing everything around us. And then from like 9 to 13, we're discovering who we are as a personality, and our brain's developing in our teen years when we are a hormonal hot mess. And then at 25, our brain is kind of developed. And then it's like the meaning of life is to spend the rest of our life sorting all that shit out and letting go of all the angers and, you know, and sorting it all out, discovering who we are until we become pure again. And that it's like trying to find the beginning and the end, which are both light, but in the middle, slopping through all the mess and to sort it out.
And good morning, Scott Giles. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Scott. I text you.
Yeah. Well, he's here with us now.
Hi, Scott. So, by offering grace and forgiveness to another person, you offer grace and forgiveness to yourself. Is that always possible or as easy as it sounds? Absolutely, positively not. Absolutely, positively not. It is possible, but it doesn't mean it's easy. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's very difficult. But the difficult part is all the things we have to look at in ourselves that don't allow us to.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Well, and for me, that's something I always have to consciously choose, which is the kindness, the graciousness, grateful, thankful. I have to choose that.
And that's just because there's things that are blocking the flow of that to be a natural flow. And that's not right or wrong. It's just is.
Yeah.
And at some point, there may be situations that bring up some of those blockages and it becomes easier to do.
Yeah.
Just because it's not there yet doesn't make you good or bad. And I have this conversation with people too. They're like, well, I shouldn't be like this. Well, why not? Because here's the fact. I forget the exact numbers, so bear with me that I'm kind of rounding around. But at any given second, our brain or our brain is presented with about 2 million pieces of information. It can only take in, I forget what it is. It's like 173,000, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know how they calculate this, but it did. But we can't comprehend that. We can comprehend and maintain 7 pieces of information at any given second, plus or minus 1 on average. Hence why a phone number is 7 digits. Hence why a social security number is 8 digits. People know this. This is how it is. So in order to process that information, your brain has to distort it, dissect it, and then generalize it to put it into categories. So in that, we're developing a filter that says where those things go. That decision is made via life experience and all that crap we learned when we were really young before we were life experienced enough to know what it was doing, and it distorts it through. So anytime we are unable to see something a certain way, it's because our perspective of that situation is different than someone else's. Here's the news flash. Absolutely, positively, no one else will have the same perspective as you on everything.
Oh, and we got a good morning from the UK. I believe it's actually good afternoon there.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Yeah, they're 7 hours, I think, ahead of us.
Yeah. But good morning, Karen. Karen Pitt from the UK.
So that processing and that distortion of everything going on around us is what people struggle with. And I've used the example before, like the three of us could go to the exact same place and we could watch the exact same. Let's say we're in the parking lot going into a restaurant and there's a car accident and we've all witnessed it. We were all looking when it occurred.
Yeah.
We're all going to notice and pick up something different. We may even remember cars being a different color than they really were, a person's hair being a different color than they were, because our brain has instantly, in those instant seconds, had to filter, distort, generalize, and put everything everywhere as quick as can be. And we're only able to do that through our own mind map.
You know what went through my mind? When you said that, we all went, okay, so you, Mary Catherine, and I, we all witness this. We all watch it. And in my mind, I'm like, did it impact me? Did it have anything to do with me? No, I'm hungry. I'm at the restaurant. I'm going to get something to eat. That's exactly what went through my mind.
And see, and I'd probably be running out into the road to see if anybody needs help. Is anybody okay? Did anybody call 911? You know, what happened?
I don't know. What would you do?
I was completely zoned out, so I wasn't even really paying attention.
Oh, to the question? Okay.
I don't even know what the heck's going on right now.
So
okay. Sorry.
I've just been focused on. I've just been focused on him.
Okay.
It depends on the perception. It depends on the situation.
All right.
I mean, there'd probably be part of me looking to see if I see a spirit leaving anybody's car. You know, like, where are we at with this? But that would just be because that's how we see things. You know, you don't choose to deal with those types of situations. That's not your gig. Cool. But I know you well. There are people who are in other situations that you'd be the first person to say, how can I help? Let me make a phone call. Let me do this for you.
There's situations if it depends on the person,
right?
I suppose. And Scott says sorting shit out is definitely hard. With all the different things that happen to us, I think we just shove it away and forget about it until it comes up at the wrong time.
Well, that's part of the way we have to. That's why I brought up how many pieces of information are actually coming into our awareness. Well, not even conscious awareness, but coming into our awareness at any given second. You can't possibly be aware of every piece of everything every second. Your brain couldn't process it.
Mm.
That's why we do this distortion, deletion, and generalizing. So when those 2 million pieces of information are coming in every second, you have to distort it, delete what you don't need, generalize the others, and then move forward with it, because it's not possible to comprehend it. Sometimes we do it on purpose when it's emotional. Sometimes we have to set, like even, well, for example, like when I had to call the ambulance and I knew it wasn't good and I had to bring him, of course, that's horribly scary because I know this is probably it. But in that given second, I had to set that feeling and that fear aside. I had something to take care of. So I was completely calm and in focused mode. Why? Because I knew I had to be. So we're able to. The problem comes when we do that because it's what's necessary for the second, and then we leave it there.
No.
We don't go, okay, how did that feel? Let's process that emotion. Let's let that emotion out. We can set our emotions aside for a moment, because to take care of what we need to, you wouldn't be able to. But it's when we then leave it there because we go, now I know what that's going to feel like and I don't want to look at it. So I'm not going to process that. And we continue to do that. We continue to do that. And we continue to do that until we're full. And when we're full, we either have a complete emotional breakdown because all these emotions need to explode up out of us, or it becomes anger. And anger is buried hurt and fear. And hurt and fear, if you want to, even if you go down below hurt and fear, and they find this in people, like with my instructor, he deals with people in recovery, is below hurt and fear is usually shame and guilt as the core. So it's a matter of pulling those things out and really looking at them. Because if we want another human being to do something because we told them to, we have to be able to find a way. And I can't always even to say, this is what I see. This is how I feel. This is what I see would help and be best for you. But that person is still going to make their own decision based on their own deletions, own distortions, own generalizing in their life experience. And when we become so enraged that they won't do what we feel they should, we need to go in and go, okay, why? We've offered what we can offer. We've presented it. I'm a big person who's still processing with my husband being mad at me when he went into his coma. And so I have this weird thing about woulda, shoulda, coulda. Like I will not live in woulda, shoulda, coulda land. So I tend to say, okay, I'm going to offer out how I feel. I'm going to be genuine and vulnerable about it because I don't want to live knowing that I didn't offer that. In other words, I know I can clear my conscience when I see spirit that I tried my very, very best. And if that person doesn't receive it or choose to do it, it's a little easier to process letting that go because I knew I truly did the hardest thing, and everybody did the hardest thing in the world, which was vulnerable and put my heart on my sleeve as an offering. And if they don't choose to receive it, that's kind of on them to decide and to deal with their own, whatever happens in their world. But the only person in my eyes that I'm ever going to have to truly answer to is spirit. So I try, and I'm not always successful, but I try to remain in that mindset of, if I'm going to judge this person for how horrible they've been and not offer grace and forgiveness, or at least attempt to, then am I going to accept when I make a mistake that someone else doesn't have to offer it to me either?
Okay.
So I try to stay in that balance of mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not, like I said, I'm not trying to sound holier than thou. There are situations where I look back on my own actions and go, oh, well, wasn't that a proud moment? Let's not repeat that.
Everybody does.
Right. We were talking about it the other day on the grounds. When we were talking about silent treatments and reacting in anger. And I do try to remember to say, and it's not always possible because I have a short fuse in some topics, to say, I am not able to respond to you in a way that I'll look back on and be proud of right now. I need some time. So that I can walk away and come back with a response versus a reaction
Yeah.
if someone's really pushed that button. Now, does that mean I'm always successful? Oh, no. I always tell people I have a long fuse in general, but once it's lit, the whole world knows. Like when I decide I'm going to let it out, it's very well known. Nobody's ever going to say, I wonder if she was mad. Nobody's ever going to say that about me.
That's not...
But it takes the older I get, the more I learn, the longer and more difficult it is to get me to that point. Like it really takes some gouging to get me to that point now.
All right. So yeah, I don't have near the short fuse I used to have, but there are times and things that will set me off, and I have to work very hard not to.
And that's okay. That's a human.
Not to blow.
I mean, that's a human reaction, and it happens. We have to ask ourselves, and I have to ask myself regularly when I feel like something triggered me a little bit, and I didn't respond or react to it. Is it that I'm not reacting to it, or is it that I'm dismissing it? Because if we dismiss it when it truly triggered us, that shit's coming back later.
Yeah.
That stuff's coming back later. And it ends up, sometimes it'll compile, and then we realize that maybe we dismissed people out of our lives that now looking back, we wished we wouldn't have. Maybe we've now done what we judged, and we realize where maybe we had judged quickly, and now we're being judged quickly, and that bites. Some people call that karma, to turn back and see that reflection of that. People misuse the word karma, in my opinion, often. And I love it when people do this. I hope karma gets you. See all that negative intent you just said, wishing harm on somebody? Guess what? You just promoted for yourself.
Well, and I've been guilty of that. I've been, the one I've said, oh, well, karma's a bitch. So.
Right. But if in saying that, if you're wishing it on another human being, you're actually wishing negative or harmful action to come to another human being. And that is how you create your own lessons.
Am I wishing that on them? I don't know. Maybe I feel like I'm just saying, you do what you do. Karma's a bitch. Just watch out for that.
Then that's a totally different thing. It's our intent behind something.
I don't think I'm like wishing, unless someone has really directly done something to me or to my family or what have you.
But you don't wait for karma. You just take care of it.
This is true.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, I have to admit that. I don't wait for karma.
But it's not.
I become the instrument of karma.
It's not always. Be careful.
Oh, by the way,
go
ahead and finish your thought. Then we have a comment from. Okay, well, Deanna Hayes says, I pick my own battles, but there's a difference between no reacting and being walked on. Yeah.
Yes, there absolutely is. I used to be the human doormat. There is a difference.
She says, I do know the difference, but how do other people see the difference?
It depends on the person, because there's two ways to look at it. If you're a human doormat and it's a repeated thing, and I have been one, so I understand, is it that the other people are bad, or is it that you have an issue you need to deal with because you don't have the boundary that allows it? So again, you are going to find a rare instance where I can't turn it back around, and it really has to do with us. Because if other people are taking advantage of you, yes, that is a reflection of their character and behavior, but it continuing to happen and it being allowed is a reflection of yourself, you and your boundaries. So you can't change that. There will be here's the news flash. There will always be assholes in the world. Always.
Yeah.
We can't change that. Okay. How we change ourselves and we build our boundaries, and what we learn about ourselves to build those boundaries is what will change how much they affect us. Some of us build our boundaries too dang high. And is it allowed? Of course it's allowed. Anything's allowed. You can do whatever the hell you want to.
Yeah.
But sometimes by building our boundaries too high, we miss a lot of experience. We built it so high that we can't see the view. We're missing a lot of experience. Some people, because of their life experience, would prefer that because they feel safer. Okay, but that's a choice.
And to that, Deanna says, would you rather be right or happy? I choose happy. And
as long as you're happy, it's genuine.
Yeah, because I was going to say happy and
faking
happy, or just being, or just acquiescing because you don't want the fight. It doesn't. I can say that doesn't make me happy. It just makes me like, do I want to be right, or I just not want to do this or deal with this? I very often would choose, depending on the person. Again, I choose to just, you know what, this isn't a fight I really feel like having.
But that's exactly my point, is that what you just said is perfect, because there's also different people that are within our life and or within our wheelhouse, or however you want to do it, that have different levels of value to us. Doesn't mean that they're less valuable or more valuable, but in our lives to us, they're different. So what we will accept and choose to converse, and whatever struggle we'll choose to do with them to resolve it, should be equal to their level of value that they hold in our lives.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
So, I mean, I've gone to bat for somebody that I loved in my life in a way that people have looked at me and said, what on earth are you doing? Like, but this is what's needed, and this is what my heart tells me is needed, and this is what I need to do, and I need to live with myself. So I made these choices that people didn't understand. Now, does that mean I would do the same thing for every person who crosses my path? No.
Yeah.
Because there's different people that hold different values. But if everybody around us, or we feel like, because the words everybody and always and never are very unusual words, and I will usually dissect them with people because it's a rare instance that is a true word to use.
I've learned that lately through different conversations.
If people are continuing, or it feels like it's continually that you're a doormat, or that you're constantly giving and you're not receiving back what you give out, then you need to ask yourself, what is the draw? Where is the part of you that is over giving without receiving, that's seeking approval? Because we're usually seeking approval, or we're seeking to have a void filled because we're uncomfortable.
Okay. And with that, Shayna actually is very, very, very pertinent to what we're talking about right now. Says, I have a few good people in my circle that have perceptions so different from my own that it makes me question reality. Division and super identifying seem to be so pervasive. Is this a global energy or something?
Absolutely. Right now, I would absolutely believe that. Right now, we seem to be in a you're one way or the other world, and there is no individual identification. Within that, there's many who are seeking to be seen. And it's kind of like the toddler who screams the loudest ends up with the sucker, is what I feel like about our energy of the world right now.
Kind of. Yeah.
So question your sanity, question your reality. I will tell you that there are moments that I question my sanity because of some of the things, the visions that I get, or the things that I see, and I don't understand why situations are turning out how they are. The only thing that you can truly do is to kind of go somewhere where you're by yourself. I'm a nature person. I go sit in the woods, but wherever you can be by yourself and just breathe yourself into calm, and then ask yourself the question, is what I'm feeling the truth for me? And trust the instinct that flows up. Trust that gut instinct, but put yourself in a calm state, because oftentimes we make our decisions based on what other people have told us, and then we have miscategorized somebody's value in our life. Okay. So if we have overvalued a person, and they have an opinion of us that's negative, we've now absorbed that opinion as truth, when it might just be their truth and yours is something different.
And Romy Johnson says, hi, Lisa.
Good morning.
And then Shayna says, the toddler analogy was fab.
Yeah, that's how I look at it right now.
Yeah. So that does make it. Well, I mean,
it's a lot of people wanting to be seen because they didn't feel that they were. And then because we delete, distort, and generalize, it's an overwhelming thing right now. I have taken myself off of reading the news for the last week because I found myself believing that the world might be hopeless. And I realized that wasn't really who I was. That was what I was reading. That was my belief in what I was reading. So I've kind of not read much about it in the last few days or however long it's been. It's been give or take of a week, because I needed to detach from that to go back into what do you see, what you know, what is in your direct presence. Because if you get absorbed in so much of that, it will consume you and you will take it in as truth. the aspects of what's going on out there may be truth. And as we're learning, much of it may not be truth. But when you get that feeling of overwhelmed or those angers about it, or you start feeling hopeless, go back into your own home, your own place, even if you have to narrow it down to sitting on your bed in your bedroom, and be present on your bed in your bedroom. And then realize that you're in the four walls of your bedroom. And right now in those four walls, none of those things are happening. You're perfectly safe. And spread out into the rest of your house and picture yourself and envision yourself, and within your house, you're perfectly safe. And absorb the fact that you are perfectly safe and everything is fine in this moment. And then go stand on your front porch and look at your neighborhood and look around and realize, oh my gosh, I'm perfectly safe. Oh my God, everything's okay. And bring yourself back out into the world with a different perspective.
And Shayna says 100% she agrees. And Deanna says there is a part we play in every resentment we have.
Absolutely.
Once you make a searching and a fearless moral inventory of yourself, you will truly see your part, and that's when we have the decision to make. Is there an amends to make or move on and change your part? We create our own drama and then stop it anytime we want to. We have a choice.
Yes.
So,
and there's two things I have to say with that. One is a common statement I tell to my students at the school is that an apology without change is just manipulation. You have to offer the change with an apology. And two is when we catch ourselves blaming or saying that these people, they did this, we have to stop and say, okay. And the hardest question that people struggle with to find the truth in is asking themselves, and what role did I play in that? Because the drama and the fire can't get fueled if we're not adding to it. If we weren't adding to it, we'd have walked away. If we weren't adding to it, we'd be unaffected. But if we're becoming hyperactive and we're putting energy into that and we're within that battle, which it happens to all of us. We all get caught up in something every now and then we go, oh, all right, enough, and we walk away. But we get caught up in that. When that happens, to step back and say, and what role did I play in that, is where you will find the discovery of, what was I getting out of that? Because we do not do things we do not receive from. We will not do it. There's no drive. So we've talked, and now we're almost out of time, but we've talked about it before, where there is a secondary gain. There is a secondary gain. And sometimes we don't identify the secondary gain. It's like people who, for example, this is figurative and generalized, I understand, but we're down to 3 minutes. A hypochondriac. People are saying, oh my God, they just need attention. Okay, that's a very generalized statement. But in many instances, you'll find that people were never nurtured. They were never loved. Maybe they're very lonely. And so when they become sick or when they're hospitalized is when the people they wish they felt care and nurture from actually come and offer that. So their mind has learned, when I do this, I receive what I need. They don't consciously make this decision, but they've learned that works. That's what brings them what they need. So their secondary gain, even though it's a negative behavior in the big picture, the secondary gain to that is the compassion and nurturing that they've been searching for gets fulfilled. So they repeat the process. It's kind of like people who stay in victimhood. Why do I stay in victimhood? Because it keeps me in a comfortable spot where I don't have to take responsibility for myself. Do they consciously make that decision? That's the other thing, is people think that everybody makes these conscious choices about their behavior, and they really honestly don't all the time. But if they can remain in the victim because they're afraid of looking at the choices they might have made, and they're afraid of looking at the damage they may have caused or the hurt or whatever, then to remain the victim is safe. You can't shake it out of somebody. They have to discover it for themselves. So again, we can offer them the grace and understanding, or the grace and compassion to try to get yourself to realize there may be something underlying there that I'm unaware of. Now, Pete's doing this, which means I have to shush. So thank you all for joining.
It just means wrap it up.
Thank you all for joining. If you'd like to book a session or get a reading. Oh, real quick, Pete, don't cut me off. No. Real quick, the week of March 29th, I am on spring break from the school. And people have been asking a lot about past life regression. So the week of March 29th, I am doing a half price for only for past life regression, but half price for past life regression sessions, because people seem so intrigued by it. So if you want to book it, it's only those 5 days, that Monday through Friday, the week of the 29th, get a hold of me and I can book it. That can be done remotely as well. Wanted to get that in there. So have a great afternoon, everybody. Try and look at life from a different perspective, as though it's a reflection of something to show yourself rather than judging everyone else around you.
And there you go.
That would be my message for the day.
All right. And everybody, we are wrapping up today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And thank you so much to the Bremer team, Keller Williams, North Shore West, bremerteam.com, 847-456-6334. And we'll be back again next Sunday at 9 a.m. Central for Lisa's Changing Perceptions. So long, everybody.
Have a good day.
Take care.